The video that you guys have all been asking for. What players do I think the Seattle Sounders should look to sign during this offseason? What are my transfer targets for the team? There has been a lot of things that have already been confirmed, so realistically, I don't think we're going to be making any of these signings. But I still really wanted to do this video because, as I already mentioned, you guys really wanted me to do a video looking at some players that the Sounders could possibly sign. But it has already been confirmed from Craig Weibel, from reports, that at this point, the Sounders are only going to be making 2 big signings, and it's looking like Pedro de la Vega is going to be one of them, where he's in a pot with 2 other South American players that we could possibly sign, only, of course, one of them, and as well that we're in conversations to sign a Scandinavian center attacking mid, which a lot of fans through Reddit and Twitter have theorized is this guy. So I don't think we're going to be bringing in any more additional pieces. Schmetzer seems to have confirmed that Morris and Ruidíaz will be the 2 main strikers next season, and I could go on like a whole tangent on how I just personally don't think that's a good idea at all, because we kind of already saw it last season, and I think that was one of our biggest shortcomings on why we couldn't excel and be successful in pretty much any tournament or cup competition that we were in. And as well, some players have renewed their contracts, which include Stefan, Frei, Alex Roldan, and so that kind of diminishes some of the things I spoke about in my like keep sell video, that if you guys haven't watched it, make sure to go watch that. But how I wanted to do this video was focus it mainly on the positions and players that I personally would have kept and sell from that previous video. So I do think it is very important, if you guys haven't watched that video, to make sure to go watch that video before you go and start watching this video, because things will make a lot more sense that way. But if not, you don't feel like watching it, it's not a big deal. I did leave a link in one of these top corners in the annotations for you all. But to summarize it, in regards to positions that I think we need to fill during this offseason, a 3rd string center back that I think could push to be a starter for this team to help elevate Yeimar and Ragen's game. He's not going to be a guy that's going to be stagnant. He's going to be a defender that wants to push those 2 guys as a starter center back for this team. As well, I said that I feel we should look to maybe sell either or of Nouhou or Alex Roldan, because I mean, they're both international players for Cameroon and El Salvador. I feel like they have a pretty good market value, and if we sell one of the 2, we of course can give more game time to some of our young outside backs that we have, because we actually have a few really good young outside backs in Cody Baker, Reed Baker Whiting, and then maybe get like a really solid outside back, something a little bit different, and then we can use some of that extra money that we could have possibly gone from those players to, you know, maybe buy a bigger name forward position player, because I think we all know that the attacking positions should be our main concern during the offseason. But to reiterate, it looks like we're not going to be signing any striker based off of the comments Schmetzer and Craig Weibel have mentioned. It looks like Pedro de la Vega will be our main attacking signing that we're going to be making, but I still think we need to look to get a striker and maybe some depth piece wingers, because just having the possibilities of Pedro de la Vega and Liao Chu, and then again, yes, Morris can play on the wing, only 3 winger options, I don't think is really that good. But nonetheless, in today's video, this will be based off of my opinion. I don't think any of these signings could happen, but for all we know, Craig Weibel could be stumbling upon YouTube looking at some possible signing options if he feels like it, and he might stumble on this video, and who knows, he might take some of my advice. I highly doubt it, but we never know. So as I mentioned, some of the positions that I'll be looking out for in regards to my transfer targets, players that I looked into, I'm going to gloss over the defenders because I don't think it's the main priority, but I do think we need to bolster those defensive positions, especially at center back, because Xavier Arreaga looks like he is most definitely going to be leaving. Cissoko has already confirmed that he's going to be leaving. So I do think a 3rd string center back would be very crucial. I know as well we do have Stuart Hodkins, who I rate very highly. Fans are a little bit skeptical of is he ready to be a 3rd to 4th string center back for the senior team. I have high praise for him. I think he could do it, but I still do think we need depth in the center back position, regardless on how much confidence I have in him. So I'll be looking at that, and I'll still be sticking if we did sell either or of Nouhou or Alex Roldan, because I still do think, I'm not saying it is a possibility, but Nouhou could be up in the air to possibly sell. If a big European team does come in for Nouhou during this offseason, during the January transfer window for all of those teams, I don't think the Sounders and Nouhou would hesitate to not accept an offer. So I will look at a few outside backs that we could look into as well. But again, I want to emphasize, I don't think we'll be selling either or of Alex Roldan and Nouhou. This is based off of what I felt would have been a good idea for the Sounders in regards to bolstering some money that we could spend in the offseason. But But of course, the main bulk of the video will be to look into some strikers that as well can play in those wing positions, but I'm looking for those number 9s that can bag goals for this team. So that will be the main position that I will be looking at in this video, because I think we all know that striker position is a position of need for the Sounders. But before we get into that, there's one thing I want to talk to you guys about. I want to say thank you so much for hitting 1,000 subscribers on the channel. It means so much to me. I mean, this was a huge milestone that I wanted to hit on this channel. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys so much. I never thought we would build such a huge community all across social media and especially on YouTube. I am planning to do a 1K subscriber special Q&A that will be released on Christmas Eve. So if you guys want to ask me any questions, they can be soccer related. They don't even have to be soccer related. If you guys just want to get to know me a little bit better and you want your question to feature on the video, head over to our community tab on the channel where I made this post and drop your guys' comments that you guys want to ask me for the video. So as I said, let's gloss over some possible outside backs that we could sign. But again, I don't think we will be signing any or looking to sign any. But if we did sell either or of Nouhou and Alex Roldan, like I mentioned in my keep sell video, these would be some options I would have looked into. I forgot to mention for the defensive positions, I'll only be looking within MLS because I don't think the Sounders would be looking to spend big money in that area because our defense for the most part is solid. So I didn't look at any players from South America or Europe. I just kind of stuck within MLS and in the free agency options. But that doesn't mean they ain't high quality players that I think could make a massive difference if we did sign them. So I'll start with the outside back positions. For left back, I looked at Diego Palacios and Kai Wagner. Both arguably the best left backs in MLS last season and are both on free agency. I do think LAFC will most likely re-sign Diego Palacios because I think it would be criminal if another team picks him up. So if we did look to sell Nouhou, and even if honestly we didn't look to sell Nouhou, I think Kai Wagner would actually be a pretty good backup option for us in that position. He could be someone that could compete with Nouhou at that left back spot. The thing is, I just don't know if Kai Wagner would be looking to do that. I know for sure Diego Palacios, after the season he had, he definitely would not be looking for that. Then moving on to the right back position. This isn't a player that is in free agency, but let's say if we did sell Alex Roldan or a big team came in to want to buy Alex Roldan, I think a right back that would really just suit how we play and is just defensively an absolute beast and offensively is really good. And I would say he's a little bit more of a polished right back compared to Alex Roldan. It is NYCFC's Tavon Gray. He would cost the Sounders a little bit of money, but he's kind of a player that I would be willing to spend that money on. He has bucket loads of MLS experience, has won an MLS Cup. He was the starting right back for the team. So if I were to look at a right back, I think Tavon Gray would definitely be the guy. But as I said, Alex Roldan has already signed a new deal. So now moving on to center back, I do think this is a position of a little bit concern because we are very thin in this position. It has just recently come out that we have selected Jonathan Bell from St. Louis City, who is a center back in the re-entry draft. It doesn't mean we have signed him. We have selected him. Most likely we will end up signing him, but there is still one center back that I still think we should look at to possibly sign, and that is Nkosi Tafari. He's the center back for FC Dallas, and in my opinion had a breakout year this year. The Sounders and FC Dallas were arguably two of the best defensive teams in the Western Conference, and I think a big reason for FC Dallas being so good defensively was because of Tafari. He's still on the younger side at 26 years old, and I do think he has that caliber and capability of pushing Ragen or Yeimar, knocking on the door, elevating our other center backs games to be like, hey, I want to be a starter for this team. And I don't think he would be a guy that would be opposed to joining a really good MLS team like the Sounders. It would definitely be a step up from FC Dallas. But he's not a guy that is in free agency, but his contract is very low, so he wouldn't cost the Sounders a lot of money. Moving on to the forward positions, which I think we all know are the main positions that the Sounders should be looking to bolster players to sign. I want to start with a few really good MLS free agency options, and then we're going to move on to the 5 main strikers that I looked at that I think would be perfect fits for the Sounders. First up is Omir Fernandez, who I think would be an absolute smash hit signing. He's been in MLS for a few years. He's still relatively young. He's about 23 years old. He was arguably the New York Red Bulls best player like the past 2 seasons. He would be a guy that if he did come in would definitely push Liao Chu, Pedro de la Vega. He would not be satisfied at being a bench warmer on this team. He would want to be a starter. He was a leader for the New York Red Bulls. He has so much experience. He is still so young, has scored bucket loads of goals in MLS, big goals as well in the New York Derby. He would be a really good third choice option in that wing position. Then for a little bit more of a B-Tech, more experienced version version, it would be Justin Miram. He's on the a lot more older side to Omir Fernandez, but he does have a lot more experience, so it depends on what you value a little bit more. Do you want someone that's has some talent, still a little bit raw, or a guy that has a bucket loads of experience and is still pretty much doing it in MLS? He has bounced around a lot of clubs, but Justin Miram has pretty much been successful for every single MLS club that he has played for, as well as some senior caps for the Iraqi national team. Both of these guys would be players that I would most definitely, if I was in the Sounders' shoes, would look to sign, because the winger spots is kind of an area that I feel like we lack creativity. Only having one true winger in Liao Chu, who has just been up and down, had a better year last year, but all in all didn't really show up in most of the bigger games for us. And I think that's kind of what cost us in a lot of the big games, is the lack of creativity out wide. We didn't have a player that had that creativity to change the game for us, add something different offensively. But since the time of recording, it looks like Omir Fernandez is most likely gonna be joining the Colorado Rapids, which I think is a huge bummer, because if he was willing to join the Rapids, if the Sounders actually went in with an offer, I think he most definitely would have considered joining us. But nonetheless, it looks like the opportunity of possibly signing him is off the table. But I still stand with everything I said. I do think he would have been a great signing. But now moving on to the main course, I've picked 5 strikers that, as well, some of them can play on the wings, that I think would be perfect fits for this team. Obviously, I'm not saying we would need to buy all 5 of them, but maybe if we bought one of them, that'd be kind of cool. For the first player that I picked out, yes, I do think it's a little bit biased, but as well, I do think he'd be a perfect signing for us. It is Iranian international Alihiyar Syed Manesh. He plays in the championship for Hull City and is only 22 years old, with a bucket load of experience in England, in Turkey, has played in the Europa League, the Europa Conference League, and the best part of it all, he is a striker, but as well can play on the left and right wing. He's one of Iran's most promising young talents currently, has a few caps for the senior national team, and with right now, it's looking like he wants to make a move out of Hull City, and there were some reports that, funnily enough, I broke the news for, that he was very close to signing for the Colorado Rapids midway through last season. He might have a little bit of an interest to come to MLS. I mean, if he almost signed for the Colorado Rapids, I mean, the Sounders is a fatty upgrade compared to them. He's most likely gonna be leaving Hull City, be it in January or at the end of the season. He's valued at around 3 million euros, which definitely is within budget for the Sounders, but we could easily negotiate a lower transfer fee because he wants out. Probably Hull City would be willing to sell him. He kind of ticks all the boxes in my opinion. He's still very young and has an array of experience in Europe and various countries. He's very fast, very strong, a very good dribbler, is very clinical when he does play in that striker position, but as well can play on the left and right wing, which that is a really good asset to have, because we all know Brian Schmetzer love his very versatile players, and I'm looking at you, Christian Roldan. Moving on to the next player, I'm gonna still stick in Asia, and I'm gonna go with Qatar national team star Almoz Ali. I know he's not one of the flashiest players, and he's not necessarily a big name signing, but Almoz Ali, the biggest thing that he does know is how to bag goals. He currently plays in the Qatari league for Al Duhai and is 27 years old, so he's about to hit his prime. In his career, in 227 matches, he has 67 goals and 61 assists. That is an insane goals and assists return. He has a lot of experience in Asian football, playing in the Asian Champions League, and as well has bagged a couple of goals in the FIFA Club World Cup, which is a competition that the Sounders again will be playing in next year. And this time around, I would really like us to make it past the first round. He's one of Qatar's big star players, and most likely all of you don't really watch Asian football, and especially not Qatar. But in the previous Asia Cup back in 2019, he broke the record for the most goals scored in that tournament. He's not necessarily the flashiest name, but his contract does expire at the end of 2024, so he would be on the cheaper side. He has left all of his previous clubs on a free, so he might not be opposed again to leaving on a free, being it if the Sounders do want to pay that little bit of money to get him in early right now, or wait till the midway point of the season and bring him in on a free midway through the season. And for me, I don't really mind that he hasn't necessarily played for like any big teams in Europe. I mean, he's played for his national team, has scored a bucket loads of goals for any club that he's gone for, and I think that's the most important part, a guy that can score goals at all levels, and he's still fairly young. He's not old. He's about the same age that we signed Ruidíaz for, if not even a little bit younger. This might not be a bad option. Next up, we're gonna move to Europe, and I'm looking at Polish striker Dawid Kaunacki. I know, I probably butchered his name, but let me go. I'm not Polish. He's currently playing in the Bundesliga for Werder Bremen and is only 26 years old. But compared to the last two players, this guy has even more experience, especially in Europe. He has scored goals in the Serie A, the Bundesliga, the Champions League, the Europa League, and has played for the Poland senior national team, which granted, Poland isn't one of the world beaters in Europe, but when it comes to the striker position, we know they are stacked. In his career, in 285 appearances, he has 71 goals and 35 assists. And again, just like the other two players that I mentioned, it will be the theme for the remainder of the other players that I'll mention after this. He is within budget as his transfer market value is about 3 million euros. So I want you all to know every player that I mentioned is not extortionately expensive. And similarly to Alahir Sayed-Manesh, and unlike almost Ali, he can play striker and as well can play on the left and right wing. So again, he gives us options in the offensive front, and I like my options. And so do you, Brian Schmetzer. For the next player, we are sticking within Europe, but we're going back to the Asian players. And I'm talking about South Korean forward Gu Sung Cho. Cho is currently playing in Denmark for Midtjylland, who are a team that is a consistent contender in European competitions, be it in the Champions League or the Europa League. His main experiences come in the K-League, also known as the Korean League, but last season made the big jump to Europe. And as well has some senior caps for the Korean national team. And you know me, I like when the players got caps for his national team. I think that's always a big bonus. And even a bigger bonus, yes, he is predominantly a striker, but can play on the left and right hand wing. I think you guys got to give me props with the players that I've been picking out that has such good versatility across the attacking line. He's not a bad option, as I've already mentioned with pretty much every single one of the forwards that I've talked about. His market value is about 3 million euros, but I do think he's a little bit more on the lower side, as he's only predominantly played in the K-League, and this year being his breakout year in Europe as he made the move to Midtjylland. But I know there were some like rumors, I want to say like last year, that we were possibly linked to a Japanese or South Korean player. I think that was maybe during or after the World Cup, so I thought it might have been fun to throw in a South Korean player on this list. And now moving on to the final player, I thought since we're most likely going to be signing an Argentinian winger that played in Argentina, why not look at a striker that's Argentinian that plays in the Argentinian league? So I'm looking at you, Mateus Jimenez. He plays for Independiente and is currently 24 years old, but the biggest issue compared to the other forwards that I mentioned, so far in his career, he's only played 135 matches with only having 35 goals and 11 assists, and he's only played in Argentina. But I thought since we are bringing in an Argentinian player that has well played in the Argentinian league, it wouldn't be a bad shout to look in this league for a possible forward that as well can play in the striker position and the left and right wing, and as well has played at the center defensive mid role. Compared to all the other forwards that I mentioned, he is a lot more of a raw talent, so he's a lot more of a high risk to possibly high reward, like a Thiago Almada type of player, but he doesn't have that experience like the previous players do, bucket loads of goals, so this one will be a little bit more of a risk. And as I've already mentioned with the previous players, he would only cost us around 3 million euros. But nonetheless, boys and girls, my opinion only matters so much. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. What was your guys' thoughts on some of the players that I mentioned? Do you guys agree with me on some of them? What are some positions that you feel the Sounders need to bolster during the offseason, where we need to make signings? Let me know your guys' thoughts. Don't forget to smash the like button on today's video. If you guys haven't submitted a question for the 1K subscriber Q&A, make sure to head to the community tab and put in a question right now before you forget. It is the utmost important. It's your opportunity to be on a Rave Green TV video. So make sure to do that. And boys and girls, I hope you'll have a lovely day.